Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 7, Chapter 2, Hiranyakashipu, King of the Demons, text number 14. Pura Grama Virodhyana Kshetra Ramash Ramakaran. It's quite a big word. Actually, it's a combination of a number of words. Kela Karvata Goshamscha Dadadu Patanani Cha Puragrama Vrajodhana Puragrama Rajodhyana Kshetra Rama Shrama Karan Keta Kauravata Goshamscha Dadahu Patanani Cha Puragrama Varojana Kshetra Rama Shrama Makaran Keta Kauravata Goshamscha Dadadu Patanani Cha Puragrama Vrajodhyana Kshetra Rama Shama Kramaran Keta Kauravata Goshamscha Tadahu Patanani Cha Jenske Puragrama Vrajodhyana Kshetra Rama Shrama Karan Keta Kauravata Goshamscha Dadahu Patanani Cha. Towns, Grama, villages, Raja, pasturing grounds, Udyana, gardens, Kshetra, agricultural fields. They burned. Patanani, the government, indeed, the entire society, should be structured in such a way that everyone can be trained to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But unfortunately, especially in this age, Ite Vidu Swarthagatim Hi Vishnu, people do not know that the highest goal of life, of human life, is to please Lord Vishnu. On the contrary, like demons, they simply plan to kill Vishnu and be happy by sense gratification. Demons set fire to the cities, villages, pasturing grounds, cowherd pens, gardens, agricultural fields, and natural forests. They burnt the hermitages of the saintly persons, the important mines that produce valuable metals, the residential quarters of the agriculturalists, the mountain villages, and the villages of the cow protectors, the cowherd men. They also burnt the government capitals. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharane Nirvishesha Srinivadi Paskatyade Satarane. So we may wonder, what do we have against gratifying our senses? Doesn't everyone want to please their senses. What's wrong with trying to please your senses? So, point is that actually these are not our senses. These are this body is actually something we've been put into, and it's demanding so many things from us. Kamarinam kati da kati palita dornideshas. In so many ways we've been trying to please the senses of this body. Kamarinam kati da palitas dornideshas. Teshamayi jata na karuna na upashanti. But they're never merciful to us, nor are they ever satisfied, nor do we ever feel that we did anything wrong. In other words, our natural position is to serve senses. If we serve these bodily senses, then we get bodily experience. But we can also serve and that way we're serving our senses, because when we serve our material senses, we get a material experience with our spiritual senses, which means our experience is rather limited and displeasing, not completely pleasing. Could be displeasing, it can be pleasing, it can be a combination of both. But our real senses are served, our spiritual senses are served when we're actually engaged in serving Krishna's senses. That's our philosophy. Yata tura mula isechinena triptyanti tatskandu bujo prashaka pranaharachya yatendriyanam tataiva sarvahanam atuteja. Just like when one waters the root of the tree, then the water goes to all the leaves and branches. Or by supplying food to the stomach, naturally the food goes to the different parts of the body. So in the same way, by serving Lord Vishnu or Krishna, naturally all the demigods and everyone else is satisfied. The example is given when Durvasa Muni was visiting Duryodhana and company. Then Duryodhana and company wanted to put the Pandavas, who at this time were in exile, into difficulty. So Durvasa Muni, he comes with 50,000 disciples. Generally speaking, most people would like at least a day or two information that they're coming, so that at least you can have enough leaves to feed them. Even to feed 50,000 people leaves is quite an endeavor. Imagine how many plates, banana plates you need in order to feed 50,000 people. What to speak of putting anything on it? What size pots do you need to feed 50,000 people? In any case, Duryodhana was living in the capital of Hastinapur, and probably he had a little notice before Durvasa Muni came with his 50,000 followers. And so he nicely received them, and then Durvasa Muni said, "Do you have any suggestions where I can go next?" He said, "Why don't you go to visit the Pandavas in the forest?" Okay. So Durvasa Muni shows up with his 50,000 followers to Maharaj Yudhisthira in the forest where they're exiled, and he says, "I'm here for lunch. Sorry we didn't inform you beforehand, but we just thought we'd drop by for lunch, me and my 50,000 followers." So Durvasa Muni, he's known as Asatosha. He can be easily pleased, and he gives benedictions, and he can be easily angered, and he curses those who anger him. The plan of Duryodhana was that Durvasa Muni would show up in the forest at the time when the Pandavas couldn't feed them, and Durvasa Muni would curse them, and then there was nothing more on Duryodhana's part to worry about. Now Draupadi had gotten a pot as a result of serving Durvasa Muni, as a matter of fact. And the pot would give unlimited food as long as Draupadi didn't eat. But Durvasa Muni and his 50,000 followers came right after lunch, and Draupadi had eaten. So the pot didn't work anymore. And Maharaj Yudhisthira was being very intelligent. He said, yeah, no problem, we'll feed you something. Well, why don't you just go and take your bath in the Ganges, when we come back, we'll have prasadam for you. Durvasa Muni went to the Ganges with his 50,000 disciples, and Maharaj Yudhisthira went to Draupadi and said, anything left in the pot? Still working? Sorry. I ate, now the pot doesn't give prasad until tomorrow. So what to do? Draupadi started to cry, And then Krishna, knowing that the Pandavas were in trouble, shows up and says, hey, what's for lunch? And then Draupadi started really crying. First, Durvasa Muni, I can't feed him. Now God comes and I can't feed him either. No, Krishna, no, just take a look and see if there's anything left in the pot. So Draupadi looks into the pot and there's one little piece of sabji left. Krishna says, wow, it's a feast, all right. Just serve it out. So he takes a little bit of sabji left and he's completely satisfied because it's offered with so much devotion and love. And then the whole universe is satisfied because Krishna is satisfied. And Durvasa Muni and his 50,000 followers are in the Ganges, and suddenly they feel completely full. They feel like they're filled up to the neck with prasad. And so Durvasa Muni says to his followers, I don't think we better go back because they probably, just prepared this huge feast for us, and we won't even be able to take even a little piece of sabji from it. We're so full. So what to do? So they fled. Sorry, we had another invitation we forgot about. Be back tomorrow. So in this way, Krishna showed that by satisfying Krishna's senses, the whole universe can be satisfied. In other words, everyone is actually connected with Krishna's senses, and when we please Krishna and we feel Krishna's satisfaction, then we automatically become satisfied also. Just like when you water the root of a tree, then naturally the leaves and branches are also watered. Or if you supplied food to the stomach, naturally the different parts of the body are also supplied with the nutrients. In other words, we have to serve someone or something. Either we serve Krishna or we serve these material senses. Either way, we remain servants. When we serve the senses, then we're in the illusion that we're serving ourselves, but that we're independent and we're somehow or another, that we are this body. But actually, we're just serving the senses, that's all. And we're not even doing anything. We're just desiring, let the senses be served, and the material nature makes all the arrangements to bring the senses and their objects together. And if we want to, we can desire, let me serve the senses of Krishna. And by that desire, Krishna becomes pleased. Simply by the soul desiring to please him, Krishna becomes pleased. There's nothing else we can do except to desire to please him. And he's more pleased when we desire to please, when we follow the instructions of his representatives. Not only trying to please him, but if we try to please his representatives, then he becomes even more pleased. Prabhupada gives the example, if you love me, then you love my dog. Now you may have a very wealthy person, or the example is given, a wealthy person, he has everything, you can't give him anything. He owns unlimited amounts of wealth. But if you give 10 pice euro, or whatever it is, 10 cent euro piece of a piece of candy to his son, and his son becomes pleased, then the multi-billionaire becomes pleased also. There's nothing you can do to please him, there's no wealth, but if you please his little son with a piece of candy, then he becomes pleased. Similarly, there's nothing really we can do to please Krishna because Krishna owns everything. our desire to please Krishna is also pleasing to him. But if we please his representatives, then the result is that he becomes more pleased than if we please him directly. And that's why our desire to follow their instructions. Now here, Hiranyakashipu and his followers, they're not very pleasing, obviously. That's called demon. Instead of following Krishna's instructions for the benefit of everyone else, they're busy working for their own destruction, everyone else's destruction. In the name, so, Prabhupada said that we shouldn't follow the demons' example, who are working in order to please their own concocted ideas of what will please their senses. Because actually their senses are not going to be pleased by such endeavor. The more demoniac people become, the less their senses become pleased. Just like we see in modern society where there is no religious principles. They don't even know religious principles. And if they do, they're confused by them. By most of the scriptures are, as William Blake said, I read the Bible. We both read the Bible day and night. I read black and you read white. But the essence of the scripture is there, to love Krishna and to love his devotees, preach his message, get people to join his movement. The essence is there, but people are confused by so many apparent contradictions in the scriptures. They don't even take seriously the message. That is, we should try to please Krishna and his representatives. Same principle in any bona fide religion. But we have to find out what Krishna wants. And here it says he wants patram, pushpam, phalam, toyam. He wants a leaf, a flower, fruit, and water. With love and devotion. Obviously, when you burn down fruit trees, you burn all the flowers, etc., you're not exactly pleasing Krishna. But we shouldn't follow the example of the demons, and we should understand the value of offering something to Krishna. The result will be that we become free from our material misconceptions, we become liberated into the platform of Krishna consciousness, when we're actually aware of Krishna and everyone and everything in relation to Krishna. That's the perfection of our life. Everything else we may achieve is not very important. We may get huge amounts of wealth or followers, we may get a huge amount of influence, whatever we may do is all right. If it's done to please Krishna, it's good. But ultimately, the idea is that whatever we do, we should do to please Krishna, and that will be the success of our life. And whatever we get without trying to please Krishna is just shrama eva hi kevalam. It will just be a waste of time. So we don't have to be anxious about achieving so many things in this lifetime. We should be anxious about trying to please Krishna. Of course, in the midst of that, Krishna also has a program. He wants, when we try to get things for Krishna, we try to bring people to hear about Krishna. We try to bring people to take up the process of devotional service. We try to get them to become serious about becoming members of Krishna's organization. When we try to get them to utilize their resources in Krishna's service, and we try to get them to go out and participate in the missionary work and convince others to serve Krishna, well, that's for Krishna's benefit. That's for Krishna's gain. And that's what we want. We want Krishna's gain. That's pleasing to Krishna. But if we want followers for ourselves, we want wealth for ourselves, etc., that will just be a waste of time. And Prabhupada was asked about building something in Mayapur for his glorification. Prabhupada said, no, I'm not interested, not very important. And then when same thing was pointed out in a different way, presented that it's for the glorification of the previous acharyas, then Prabhupada was very much interested in it. Yes, that's what we want. So we have to, although it's subtle, we have to see whether what I'm doing is pleasing to Krishna or I'm doing it for some other reason. And if we become thoughtful and see that what we're doing should be pleasing to Krishna, then we'll make spiritual advancement. And if we're unconscious on what our motivations are, then we remain in the same state of unconsciousness. So if we add Krishna and the motivation to please Krishna and the process of pleasing Krishna, then we make progress in Krishna consciousness. So I'll stop there. Thank you. Any questions? Yes.
Hare Krishna. So we should do everything to please Krishna, and also this verse speaks about samsiddhir haritoshanam, how to engage at the purport, how to engage all our occupational duties in pleasing Krishna. How a devotee having some outside job and working in an office, if that still continues, how can they think of it as some activity that can please Krishna? Because they're working outside with non-devotees. So how can they see it just beyond offering something, some results at the end, during the activity? How can they meditate on this as something?
Well, if you offer the results at the end, then you'll be working for Krishna. You'll think about Krishna. If you think Krishna's going to get the results, then you're working for Krishna, and you remember Krishna. Just like people have a picture of their wife and children and dog on the desk, because they're working for them. And so that's what they remember. Any other way, it's not, if you think that's the process. If you believe everything here in the office belongs to Krishna, actually, and that Krishna is giving me this duty to do, in order to do something, to bring some results to please him, and if you try to do it, you try to work nicely to please Krishna, then you'll think about Krishna, wherever you are. There's nothing stopping from thinking about Krishna. There's no sign, don't think of Krishna. Hopefully there's no sign. But even if you see that sign, don't think of Krishna, then that will help you remember Krishna also. Don't think of Krishna, don't think of Krishna. Anything else? Rather simple philosophy. We just have to, but Maya makes everything complicated. It doesn't let us believe that we're actually Krishna's eternal servants. That's what makes everything complicated. All right, thank you very much. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.